Its tiny red eyes stared at Tang Mo, its eyes moving from Tang Mo's face to his thighs. The gaze was completely greedy and hungry, the black rabbit drooling as it looked up into Tang Mo's eyes. Human I.A.L.L.S with sugar at the best to eat. Tang Mo stared at it coldly, his left hand on the small parasol. From the beginning, Tang Mo had been trying to see if he could get out of here. When he saw this black rabbit doll, Tang Mo took 2 steps backwards. He didn't fall off the bright blue clock but hit an invisible wall. He observed the black rabbit while also observing the surrounding environment. Everything was dark apart from the clock and the black rabbit doll standing on the other side of the clock. There is probably only 1 square meter of movable S.P.A.ce. Tang Mo quietly used the parasol tip to search around and the small parasol touched the invisible walls in the air. Tang Mo drew a rough model in his mind. He was currently trapped in an invisible cage. Invisible walls surrounded this cage and there was a blue clock at his feet. There was a range of activities he could do to test it but the black rabbit was staring. In any case, Tang Mo was currently trapped on the number 6 of this clock. Tang Mo stared at the black rabbit while the black tower gave a strange laugh. Half a minute later, Tang Mo loosened his grasp on the small parasol. The black rabbit narrowed its eyes when he saw Tang Mo's movements. It pondered for a moment before smiling. Hoa.r.s.ely, hey human, why don't you pick up your pink umbrella and desperately resist me? Looking at your pink, lacy women's umbrella reminds me of a very disgusting thing. Maybe I should use it to string you up for baking? That is an excellent idea. This disgusting umbrella seems a bit cute. Tang Mo didn't reply to the black rabbit's words. He stretched out his arms and touched above his head. His arms extended and felt the invisible ceiling. Sure enough, there was also a wall here. Human. There was a roar and the whole S.P.A.ce shook like there was an earthquake. Tang Mo turned to look warily at the black rabbit but he wasn't too alarmed. After a moment, Tang Mo smiled. It seems you can't run over. Can you only stand there and stare? The black rabbit was startled. Tang Mo spoke lightly, you didn't start off on this clock. You entered on your own and stood on the number 12. Since then, he raised his head and smiled. You haven't moved another step. You've been standing on that number 12. Then can you move now? The black rabbit's red eyes glowed brighter as it stared angrily at Tang Mo, growling out, I will eat you. The giant rabbit doll suddenly kicked off against the ground, making its bulky body leap up. However, it had only jumped a few centimeters when it was thrown back by an invisible wall. The black rabbit fell to the ground. It failed to leave the small cage that was blocking it but the earth shook. Tang Mo placed his hand against the wall and stabilized his body. The next second, he looked at the ground with surprise. The ground was shaking violently but this luminous blue clock was still motionless. The ground in the S.P.A.ce was shaking, but this blue clock remained steadily in place, not shaking at all. The black rabbit was furious. As Tang Mo said, it couldn't leave this small S.P.A.ce but it could continue hitting the wall. It hit the wall again and again, watching as Tang Mo could only hold the wall to stabilize his body. It laughed and slammed into the wall in front of it. Tang Mo pulled out the small parasol, placed the tip on the ground to support himself and looked up at it. The black rabbit sneered. Human, I will eat you. Soon you will know what a big mistake you made. Tang Mo didn't care about the black rabbit's taunts and looked at it calmly. One human and one rabbit confronted each other on the clock while staying silent. Time said slowly and no one knew how long it had been until there was the sound of footsteps in the darkness. Tang Mo and the black rabbit immediately turned to look in the direction of the sound. They saw a white rabbit running over from the direction of the number 3. The rabbit wore fine clothing and had a metal ring in his ear. He pulled out a pocket watch as he quickly ran forward. It's too late, bang. Tang Mo watched as Mr. Rabbit tripped over the edge of the clock and fell. The small and cute rabbit rubbed his head and picked up the pocket watch to see the time. As soon as he saw the time, he immediately cried out, I'm going to be late again, and got up, continuing to run forward. He ran to the middle of the clock where the hour hand intersected with the second hand and suddenly disappeared. Tang Mo watched this scene with amazement. His brain was working quickly but his face was calm. There was a cold laugh. Human. Tang Mo looked up coldly at the black rabbit. Tang Mo wasn't in a hurry because he hadn't yet triggered the main mission. The black tower asked him to touch Mr. Rabbit's tail. He did it and completed the side mission. The next step was the main mission. The black rabbit gritted his teeth and stared resentfully at Tang Mo. After a while, it laughed. Do you think I accidentally walked onto the clock of truth? Tang Mo's heart jolted but he remained silent. The black rabbit smiled slyly, its laughter growing louder and crazier. Suddenly, it jumped up again and slammed against the ground more fiercely. The whole earth shook. Tang Mo held the wall to steady his body and stared at it vigilantly. As the earth shook, a roar was suddenly heard. I want to open the truth clock game. There was a look of astonishment on Tang Mo's face. Boom! The hour and minute hands fixed on the clock suddenly started to spin quickly. The one long and one short pointer rotated at a rapid speed like a fan. As they turned, the clock flashed with a more dazzling blue glow. The pointers stopped and the light weakened. Tang Mo gazed at it. The short hour hand was pointing to himself while the longer minute hand was pointing to the black rabbit. It was exactly 6 o'clock. At this moment, a loud bell rang. Ding, 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 ding. It was like someone was pounding on them as a total of 6 loud bell sounds echoed in the dark S.P.A.ce. Once the ringing stopped, the black rabbit laughed wildly again. In the midst of the terrifying and strange laughter, there was a mechanical voice. The voice was cold and unaffected, with no fluctuations from beginning to end. It seemed to be a male voice but also a female voice, containing all sounds. The truth clock game has opened. The player at 0 o'clock, please enter the game. Tang Mo carefully looked at the clock under his feet. The clock exuded a faint glow without any changes. He was surprised but then he heard the black rabbit laughing. Him. He is a human player. Tang Mo raised his head and saw that the black rabbit was viciously staring at him. It saw Tang Mo looking at it and opened its mouth, revealing a mean grin. The truth is correct. Player 0 has successfully entered the game. The player at 6 o'clock, please enter the game. Tang Mo held the small parasol and stared warily at the clock. The clock quietly flashed blue and nothing seemed to change. The black rabbit saw Tang Mo's cautious appearance and the greed in its eyes became more apparent. Tang Mo was silent and didn't speak. Then the mechanical voice was heard again. The player at 6 o'clock, please enter the game. If the game isn't entered within 1 minute, the 6 o'clock player will violate the law of truth and become a fallacy. The truth clock will erase the fallacy. Tang Mo's eyes narrowed. The black rabbit laughed slyly. Tang Mo's grip on the small parasol tightened. In the last 10 seconds, he looked coldly at the black rabbit and said, "It is a black tower boss." The black rabbit was stunned and then burst out laughing. Tang Mo had an ominous feeling as the cold voice was heard again. Truth error, fallacy. Fallacy. The level 3 grey fallacy, player 6 has opened Schrodinger's box and accepted the punishment. The next second, Tang Mo's body fell into water. The invisible cage he was standing in was suddenly filled with water. Tang Mo's body was floating in the air when it suddenly happened, causing him to swallow a few mouthfuls of water. He reacted quickly and held his breath. Tang Mo glared at the black rabbit from his cage of water. The black rabbit was so happy about him being punished that it shook the ground, making Tang Mo even more tormented. 10 minutes later, Tang Mo's physical fitness had reached the limit when the water in the cage disappeared as suddenly as it appeared. Tang Mo supported himself using the ground and coughed fiercely. He tried his best to breathe as his hair and clothes were wet with water. The black rabbit looked at his uncomfortable appearance and smiled mockingly. Are you wondering why the conclusion that I'm a black tower boss is a fallacy? Ha ha ha, stupid human. It is because when I stepped on the clock of truth and started the game, I became a predict.I.P.ant of the game. On the clock of truth, there is no black tower boss. This clock is the real boss. The player at 6 o'clock, please enter the game. Tang Mo got up from the ground and wiped the water on his forehead. He stared at the sneering black rabbit in front of him and said, I am a human player. The truth is correct. Player 6 has successfully entered the game. The black rabbit had been waiting for Tang Mo to be punished again. When it heard this, it was stunned. The black rabbit gritted its teeth and slammed angrily into the wall. Tang Mo wrung his soaked clothes with a blank face. At this moment, a clear child's voice entered his ears. Tang Mo paused before continuing to twist his clothes calmly. Ding dong. Triggered the main mission, Mr. Rabbit's Truth Clock Game. The rules of the game first, the truth isn't an unchanging law of the universe. To be recognized by the Black Tower is the truth. Second, only one victor is allowed on the truth clock. Third, the clock of truth recognizes all truth and rejects all fallacies. Fourth, the clock is divided into 60 squares and 258 indeterminate objects will appear on the truth clock every 10 minutes. There must be a separate truth between every 2 items. All the items on the truth clock are limited to a common truth between only 2 objects, in other words, there is one single truth. Fifth, find out the individual truth and successfully eliminate it. This allows you to move forward 1 square. Sixth, if you find a fallacy or no truths, you will go back 1 square. If there are any items on the clock that haven't been eliminated when you open Schrodinger's box, you will go back 2 squares. Seventh, fallacies are divided into 4 types, Level 1 Origin Fallacy, Level 2 Sophistry Fallacy, Level 3 Grey Fallacy and Level 4 False Truth. Different fallacies will trigger different punishments from Schrodinger's box. Once the box is opened, the player's most serious fallacy is judged and punished. 8. Successfully eliminate everything on the truth clock and you can clear the game in accordance with the truth. 9th, the player who is caught first will fall into the eternal black hole of truth. The surviving player is the only winner on the truth clock and will PAS the game. If a player dies from the Schrodinger's box punishment, the survivor can also PAS the game. 10th, every hour, there will only be 4 items on the truth clock. The truth of these items is the most difficult truth. The truth clock only recognizes the truly strong. This is the Black Tower's friendly reminded. To clear the game, be strong. The author has something to say. Tang Tang, twist clothes with a cold face old foo, when I was away, someone bullied my Tang Tang. Added a KO5 for the people asking for an alternative to Patreon. You can also join my Discord channel to chat with fellow readers about the novels.